So, for this blog post, I'm going to be pitching my game, tentatively called Pitch It. The idea for my game is basically it's based around the theme of a film and mainly being a movie maker pitching it to a producer. It works around the idea that, a player plays the producer and outline and has cards that set the outline, such as genre and settings, and then lets the other players come up with an idea around these. Now, the idea is pretty much deviated from what I originally had. The original idea was to have two forms of games based around the theme of film. The two original games were, one was an asymmetric board game where the producer with the board and players fought against them. Standard affair of producer being a dickhead. But the thing that I was drawn to was the pitch game, which came about due to a session I had with a group of friends that I do usually play board games with, which I basically put both of these games towards them, and they both said that they liked the idea of the pitch game more. They even helped me narrow down the mechanics of what I had not currently, but the first edition pretty much that I had built out with the first playtest. So the first playtest picked up this pitch idea. Pretty much we designed the gameplay around more or less Cards Against Humanity or Big Idea, where it was basically one person was the set card person, like a card czar, namely the producer, who would basically draw from, at that moment, two decks, that being genre and settings, and for that first thing, the producer would then give each player 1 to 3 minutes to write down an idea. We varied with them for the first playtest, and write down a pitch idea with the settings put forward in the card. This, showed many of the limiting factors or good factors that worked with it. Such limiting factors being players who did not have such a spontaneous play style had difficulty with it, and would like more card-based control where they would have their own cards to play with it. Whereas those players sometimes took well with it. Other problems that came up with the producer had not much to do when he was in the producer role. Yeah, so basically the gameplay was that initially, and evolved from that, where I think the evolution of the game will go on to be more build your own with the rules and stuff like that. The basic rules are pretty much come down to one person as producer. He flips cards on genre settings or whatever the decks you want to build up, which is another thing. I think that it would work well with making a deck that will eventually become, build your own decks. And then players can, depending on what style they like, take a few minutes to come down with ideas and speak into the producer. Or, as I found out with later playtests, talk spontaneously and try and bullshit their way to victory that would give them initial things. These are two kind of ideas that came about from both playtesting and ideas with the game where it had difficulties with certain aspects. Other things I'd like to cover in this blog would be, who did I design this game for, which would probably be inside the casual board game player to any kind of card game. Mostly probably towards creative people, I guess, is the way it's geared due to the fact you have to come up with stuff. But I found some pretty interesting things coming from people who don't consider themselves creative when they had the moment of getting to there. Which brings up kind of, the reason why I add the additional rule set that I was interested in, which is pretty much, the game, if honest, isn't fully fleshed out at the moment and needs improving. I think the way the game can improve with, especially, if I'm pitching the idea to other people with the game, would be to say, build your own game with it, add ideas to it. Currently, I like the idea that it's an icebreaker, the game is much more of just a social, do these actions for a bit and learn what the other people do with these. I think to improve it, I'd need to, include a few more things, maybe as a basic game, pick a way, but give the indication to go and make your own stuff with it. But apart from that, I like the concept of the idea of the game, and that's why, I wanted to pitch the game this way. But I think my concept of the game doesn't work with everyone else's fun aspect of the game where I think that's where I'm limited when I pitch this game. So hopefully that should be good.